investor doing things on your own? How about someone working with a firm that isn't so responsive or in sync with your investment philosophy? My podcast talks you through all things financial. Look, there's stuff you don't deal with very often, but investments, insurance, and retirement is something we plan for each and every day. This is the Pennywise Financial Podcast, and welcome to the show. Welcome to Pennywise Financial Podcast. This is Constantine here with Monarch Wealth Management, joined by my guest host,
once again, Jason Georgia.
Good
morning.
Good morning. First of all, I got to apologize, number one, and explain to you and to our listeners. I've been on kind of a hiatus, if you will. What has it been, like a month?
Yeah.
A month. We have done some recordings, but I got COVID round two. Round two COVID, my entire family had it. And I know this is Jay's probably most painful topic to discuss. Your ears are bleeding right now. But yeah, I had COVID and everybody's different. We had some family members go to the hospital. My wife lost her taste and smell. I actually had a heightened taste and smell, which is, you might think, oh, it's great. I couldn't eat normal foods because they tasted more seasoned and things like that. But anyway, so that's what's been happening to me. That's why we took a little break. And so anyway, I know that we're making progress. I mean, you hear all the vaccine numbers, and we heard Biden's speech. I don't know if you heard it last night.
A little bit. I heard
first 100 days. It's okay. I mean, I don't know that any speech I've heard from a president has been that impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, I know sometimes with Trump's speeches, you kind of felt like you were getting nowhere. Like you would hear, okay, let's talk about maybe foreign policy, and you'd hear, it's great, it's wonderful, it's the best.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't hear any details.
Yeah.
And I think that's a missing component.
Yeah, that's most presidents that talk, they don't give you details, they just give you the overall
big picture,
yeah,
or end results, right?
Yep.
So one of the things I want to talk about is the shift that we've seen, obviously, in stocks. We talked about this on the last show, shifting from tech to more value to industrial, financials, and all those things have kind of petered out. They've kind of flatlined. Yeah. The Fed just reaffirmed that they're not going to raise rates for the unforeseeable future, which means probably into 2022. So the momentum that we saw in financials and things like that, maybe they're not going to reap those benefits that they thought were going to happen sooner than later. Mm-hmm. That's a regional banks and things like that. But the financials do pay dividends. And so in a lot of the industrials, the old school value type plays that have been in the doghouse for the last decade. So if you own value versus growth in the last 10, 15 years, you got crushed. Mm-hmm. You're sitting there saying, geez, I'm only making 3 or 4% a year. I hear people are making 15, 20% average a year, and they're wondering why. And so I think the reason that I'm bringing that up is we're unconstrained as a firm. Our firm is unconstrained. And what that means is you come in as a client, you want to make money, you have a growth objective. We can go into value, we can go into growth, we can go into blend, we can go into large, mid, small cap companies, international. We can look at things like real estate, precious metals, commodities. So that's an important part of investments. Some firms will have 5 models that were given to them by upper management. They know nothing about those portfolios, what's inside of them. Imagine working at a restaurant and offering 5 dinner options. And you kind of know what's in them, but not really. Would you want to serve that?
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Correct. Would you want to serve that? Would you want to eat that?
Yeah.
Probably not. Are you proud of that? Probably not. Where when you meet with us, one of the aspects of our firm that's so different is we know every component because we've actually added the ingredients. We hand-picked, hand-selected only the best ingredients. And if they're not going to be good forever, right? Mm-hmm. Things change. Yeah. Market changes. We have to adapt to that. And I could tell you as a firm, the position, the stance that we've had is we've been underweight in value stocks because they have not performed. Mm-hmm. They haven't been in the position where we thought there was potential there to make money. Mm-hmm. Why own it just to say that you're diversified, right?
Yeah.
You hear this big word about diversification, and it's great. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. And diversification does not mean owning every single aspect of the market, even though you know it's going down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you think about inflation. Have you guys noticed anything with inflation? Cost of goods or services? I know I have. How about at the pump?
Yeah, gas, definitely.
Gas for sure. I mean, between 20 to 30 cents maybe a month.
But now I feel like it's leveled out a little bit.
It has. It definitely has.
It was boom, 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 up, 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 and now flatline, you know? So I don't know how it's going to be in the future. Oil prices keep going up, right?
Oil, energy's been doing well. Another sector that's been in the doghouse, right?
Yeah.
You owned oils. I mean, we saw what the price of oil did, $120 down to 30.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this whole push, this wave, this cabinet right now, regime, if you will, focusing on clean energy. So you think like the Teslas and the electric vehicles, plug power, all these plug stations.
And that bottomed out.
Yeah. I think long term, eventually, we're going to see people shift that way.
Yeah.
But don't you think it's going to be a while?
I think so. You have to get the charging stations out.
Charging stations, you got to have infrastructure. It's got to be planned out. Yeah. I know if I'm driving to Buffalo to meet with clients and I have to be back, do I have to find a charging station in between? If I'm heading out to Albany.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, most of these cars, they have 300-mile range or something like that for the charging on the vehicle. So with the charging station, me and you were talking about this, having the charging underneath the street or while you're driving to be charging.
Like charging while you're driving?
Yeah.
Like through your tires or whatever it might be.
Because it's not like a gas station where you go and fill up. You have to actually park there, plug your car in, and sit there while it charges.
And wait.
So what you can't do that at a gas station. What are you just going to go look at magazines in the magazine aisle at the gas station? You know? Like,
yeah.
How are you going to do that? You know? So they have to figure out a way. I think the best way is to figure out a way to charge while driving. Like an alternator does on your car right now, you know. Alternator's spinning and it's charging the battery while you're driving.
Yeah, I'd have to see how they could make up, you know, it'd have to be able to push out enough that it would take care of the drive to operate the vehicle and then some to push back and charge it.
Or at least until you get to a location where you're going to know you're going to be there for 4 hours and you can plug it in.
Well, they started coming out with all these trucks.
Mm-hmm.
I think they had Tesla, they had Volvo, they had all these EV trucks.
Yeah, Amazon's doing a huge...
How does that go? I mean, I hear stories, and then you hear about companies like Nikola that show this truck driving, right? And it's a Freightliner.
Yeah.
And then they hear that the video actually was shot with the truck rolling down the hill. It wasn't actually propelling itself.
Oh.
So, like, I don't know if we've actually come there. There's a lot of rumor, a lot of speculation.
Yeah.
And there's excitement around EV, electric vehicles, solar, wind. And then we've seen problems like we had in Texas with that outage.
Oh, yeah.
The once-in-a-lifetime chance where they get frost in the what do they call them? Wind turbines froze. Mm-hmm. And I guess there's an option, like in this part of the country, where you could get like things that kind of thaw out the
heating elements or something like that.
Some components, and they didn't get it in Texas because what do we need to spend the money for?
Yeah, because they never get snow or ice down there usually. But like you said, once in a lifetime, and then the whole grid goes down.
And
that's
what are you going to do? I almost think they need. I love the idea of clean, but maybe there's a hybrid type of way to do it, where you have electric supplemented with gas for the times when you run out of that juice. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, and I think it's set up like that now, where electric is more coming into play and phasing out the coal or whatever they use to make the electricity now. But it's just down the road. You know, nobody knows. Nobody can say by 2032 it's going to be full, because it changes
all the time.
You know? And it changes with a new president.
And are you going to get rid of your car that takes gas to buy a new vehicle that's probably going to be a lot more expensive?
Yeah.
I don't know. Talking about energy consumption. Oh, go ahead. You got something else?
I was going to say, when Obama was in office, just like Biden is now, electric, everything was clean energy. And then You saw SUVs, the gas price was, remember there was a point where the gas price was skyrocketing. It was up to almost $5 a gallon in this country. And everybody started to stop buying SUVs, and the local or the U.S. car companies were, had a surplus of SUVs because nobody was buying them anymore. So then Trump came in office and everything became
less expensive,
more affordable. Gas prices bottomed out. SUVs came back all of a sudden. So it depends on who comes in the office, what kind of plans they have, and what's good, what they want to do.
Changes every so often. With that, talking about energy consumption, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back with the show.
Are you a business owner looking for ways to save for retirement, keep and attract top talent, or maybe just save the amount of taxes you're paying? We have solutions to help all size businesses, from solo practice to mid-sized firms. There's a ton of tax incentives just up for grabs. Your employees will thank you for giving them a platform to invest in their future. If you have a retirement plan in place and you're not sure the best way to set things up, reach out to me, Constantine at Monarch Wealth Management, and I'll help you understand your options and know what you own. Not all advisors understand retirement plans, so make sure you're working with a knowledgeable team and experience from Monarch Difference.
Welcome back to Pennywise Financial Podcast. Constantine here, joined by Jason Georgiev. Welcome back, Jay.
Thank you, sir.
So we had actually, in the last couple of weeks, some new prospects, brand new to the firm, and they had a lot of great questions when they scheduled their first meeting, their consultation. And I think it's worth sharing because this might be some questions that you have if you're not a current client. And these folks were not referrals. They weren't friends of friends or clients or attorney, CPA referrals. They were brand new to the firm. They had heard about us, maybe some things that I do specifically with retirement plans and business owners. But there's a common theme. And the common theme is when I come into Monarch Wealth Management, what can I expect? What am I going to pay? What's the process? How does it work? What information do I need to bring with me? And so I think that's a good starting point. And one thing that we have done in the last year or so is developed a data intake form for a prospect to fill out. You go to the doctor's office, what do?
Yeah, fill out forms left and right.
You bring your insurance card, right?
Yeah.
They hand you a clipboard usually with a pen, sanitized and non-sanitized. These days they got a mask on. They have you go sit in the office. But if you're a new patient at a doctor's office or a dentist, whatever it might be, bring your insurance card. You sit down with that clipboard. And what do they ask you? Name,
social,
address,
whatever.
all the stuff
all the personal information.
The basic stuff.
Yeah.
And that's a good starting point for us. So what does that do? Why is that important? Well, your name and your address, of course. If you do become a client, we want to know where to send the statements, right? Correspondence, things like that. And then we get into some other information, like where you're working. Why do you care where I work? Well, you might have questions about your retirement plan at work. You work at the hospital. You work at the U of R. You work at Strong. You work at Nazareth. You work at Wegmans. You work at RIT.
403B, 401k.
Correct. So you've got a 403B, a 401k, and you seek counsel. You seek advice. Hey, you want help? Hey, I want to get some help with my retirement plan, but I don't think there's anything I can do because I can't roll it over to you or your firm, but I want somebody to help me. And so 9 out of 10 advisors you go to and say, sorry, there's nothing I can do because you're prohibited as an advisor to go in and manage and make changes and tweaks to your 401k. And how are you going to charge a fee for that? And what kind of liability are you taking for doing that? So the Department of Labor has some strict guidelines on that, right? You have a 401k. You're paying a ton of fees to have the plan, and maybe some of those fees are paid for by your company, which is fantastic. It's great. It's a great benefit. If it's a larger company, chances are they're doing something for you that you may not even realize. And I have a lot of prospects that say, I pay no fees.
Yeah.
I can tell you 100% you are paying fees.
Yep.
We don't do this out of the kindness of our heart. We love what we do. We love helping people. But this is how I make my living. This is how we put food on the table. This is how we pay our bills. I can tell you Fidelity, Vanguard, T. Rowe Price, TIA Cref, they're not doing this for free. They have employees, they have overhead, they have costs, and they're actually doing something. It's not like you're just paying this frivolous fee for no reason. Like, I've got a 401k, I just got to write them a check. They're doing something, right? They're custodying assets for you, which means when you make your when you get paid and your checks are being deferred, somebody's holding the money in trust for you, right? And so they've got that on the platform. They also have to do reporting to the IRS. There's a number of different things they have to do. There's services that they're providing to you, right? So now that's why knowing where you work can be extremely important, because you probably want help. Most of our clients want help. Now, I will say that a lot of the companies that I mentioned before, we can actually work with. They've partnered. They've allowed advisors to come in and help their employees as a service, as a benefit. Not every single 401k plan allows that. Meaning we can come in and help you and actually manage the assets in a way that is conducive to the plan and meets the criteria. Some 401k companies and their providers don't have a partnership with advisors. So not every single 401k or 403b or 457 plan will allow an outside advisor who's not on the plan to go in and help those folks. So what can we do there? Well, I can tell you what we can do. If you print off and bring in a statement and your underlying investment options, we can analyze that and make it part of your overall plan, right? So it's not only knowing how much you're making on your investments with us, that's great, but how do they tie in? How do all the pieces fit together? They use this term holistic. Ever hear that term holistic? I tell my wife holistic 5-10 years ago. What does that mean? It sounds like such a fancy word, and it's so overused.
Yeah.
Holistic. Just say what you mean. What do you mean holistic? We take everything into consideration. We look at the whole picture. Holistic. So that's where that comes from. So yeah, we have an online worksheet, an online portal where you can go ahead and fill out all this information where you work, much like the doctor's office situation. Having that information prior to the meeting will make the most of it, because then we can take that information. Now, I know a little bit about you, Jason. You're a new prospect. You know nothing about me in the firm. You can certainly ask me questions, but we're here to meet about you and your goals and your objective and your time horizon, how comfortable you are.
Yeah.
What about your previous experience? You ever invested in stocks or bonds? How about real estate? So we go through all those. It's an exercise. And I don't know how you feel, but in a lot of cases, when you go through that questionnaire, a lot of the prospects are telling me that it's opening their eyes or kind of turning the wheel for them to think about certain things that maybe they forgot about or didn't know was important. How about life insurance? Wait a minute. You look at life insurance? So I've had some prospects say, well, yeah, I think we have life insurance through work. Okay, well, what's the coverage look like? What happens if you leave that job, get promoted, retire? What happens to your policy? Oh, geez, I don't know. So it brings about more quiet, it creates like a dialogue, and that's the kind of relationship that you should have. It's very open-ended, meaning there's, we do build an agenda so that we have some tasks to maybe make sure that we tackle those items that are important to you, right? You come in and you meet, you might want to talk about protection. You might want to talk about income. How do I increase my income now? How do I reduce my taxes? Those kind of things. They're all important, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you make 10% on your investment. That sounds great. What if I tell you that 55% of that goes out to tax?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that doesn't seem as great. But if you know that ahead of time, you know how to plan and you think about that, and maybe you sell a little bit over time, oh, geez, you put more in your pocket. You pay less tax, or maybe no tax.
Well, the more information you have, the better off you are.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's the same when we go to a doctor or a dentist and they give us maybe an idea of how they're going to tackle whatever our challenge might be. We always ask, well, if there are alternatives, is there any other option? And maybe they have a couple others that they didn't think to be good or suitable.
Yeah.
But you might like those better.
Yeah.
And I think we were talking about this the other day with with Dave and some things that they have where there's a temporary fix versus a long term, might be a surgery, and that might happen here too. When clients come in with a portfolio, an investment, by default they think they bring their investments to us and they have to sell everything. Well, chances are that they have some good investments. I would hope. It's not like everything they bring to us is garbage.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that? I mean, you see the assets that come in.
I mean, it depends. You guys usually have your own, portfolio ideas that you work with and your own assets that you want to bring in that are doing well for you and you want to do well for your clients. So, I mean, it's mixed. You'll keep a few, you'll get rid of a few, you'll see what works better for the timeline you're looking at, I think.
But if there's a good investment,
yeah, you're going to keep it.
There's no reason for us to sell. We have no incentive to sell.
Yeah.
Our incentive is our commitment to our clients and making sure that they're with us long term. And that's another valid point. How are we compensated? I get that question a lot too. So the initial consultation, there's no cost for. We have financial planning and services that we offer to consult with business owners, financial plans, things like that. And then we have our clients where we manage their assets and we charge a percentage of the asset that we're managing. If our clients are doing well and making money, we're going to profit in that. If our clients' accounts are declining in value, they're losing money, we're losing money. We share in that same responsibility, that same cause and effect. So I want to do everything in my power to make sure that you're both profitable and happy and satisfied. But along with that, I think is customer service, is communication. If I call Jay and he doesn't respond to me in 2 weeks and I have to call him again and he still doesn't respond, well, chances are I'm not very happy.
Yeah.
And it seems so basic, so primitive, but you'd be shocked. I can't tell you the number of people. When we opened this firm back in 2014, we needed a massive sign on the front of this building here in Brighton, our main office. And we called, I think, 5 or 6 sign folks. We had 2 people call back and 1 person that actually followed through. We responded to our emails, our messages, our phone calls, and they got the business. It seems shocking to me that I called 5 people that do this for a living.
And 1 got back to you, basically.
And 1 actually followed through and got back to us.
Yep.
1.
Yep. That's
Seems
just bad
basic.
business to me.
It's bad business.
Yeah.
But I'd say in almost every industry, and we deal with a lot of vendors, right? We deal with insurance companies. We deal with annuity companies. We deal with mutual fund companies, ETFs, individual stocks, private real estate, BDCs, you name it. And I can tell you there are some bad apples out there, meaning that they just don't follow through. They don't actually do their job.
Yeah.
The majority of people are lazy.
Yep.
So speaking of lazy, let's take a quick break. I'm getting tired. And we'll be right back with the show.
Do you have a high deductible insurance plan? If so, have you set up your HSA? There's a ton of people who don't know what it is or how it works. Even worse, there is an underserved segment of the population that can't get advice from their advisor about how to make the most of these powerful and unique programs. Not many advisors focus on this in their practice, don't understand the mechanics of how they work, or even where to begin helping their clients. Reach out to me, Constantine, at Monarch Wealth Management, and I'll guide you through this process and get you on track to make the most of your high deductible plan and your superhuman HSA. That's 585-484-1400. That's 585-484-1400.
Welcome back to Pennywise Financial Podcast. This is Constantine here, joined by Jason Georgiev.
Hello again.
All right, this is our last segment of the show.
Let's do it.
And Jay brought up a good point, and I think this has been also in line with a lot of the questions that we're getting from new folks wondering what is going on in the market right now. What is actually happening in the market?
Just today, this morning.
So what happened? I mean,
The market opened high.
Opened high, pretty much across the board, right? All 3.
Yeah, up 1%
NASDAQ,
probably.
Dow,
right
and
around
S&P.
there. Yeah.
And we saw this divergence of NASDAQ going down, let's say the last 3 months or so, maybe started around February, and the Dow and the S&P going up. And that change, the pendulum swung the other way.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like they were talking about, the tech stocks are going to be, not doing as well, invest in other things. And NASDAQ's still holding a, good run.
Absolutely, it is.
Just today in the last hour, though, I'm just thinking everything opened high, and then all of a sudden now the Nasdaq's negative 0.1%.
And sometimes the market does not react rationally, right? Like, so what makes sense and what should actually happen doesn't.
Yeah.
It goes just the opposite. And there were some stocks that at the beginning of the year we talked about, like the GameStops and whatnot, that were on this wild ride and trading on nothing. It was Reddit chat rooms and people kind of pumping up the stock and then selling it, would crash and all that stuff. But on a broader picture, when we look at the different stock sectors, think about technology. Mm-hmm. So what does technology need to have happen? Technology can run whether we're in a pandemic or not, right? We pretty much all use technology in good times and bad times. I don't think that you're going to say, geez, things are getting pretty expensive at the grocery store and at the pump. I'm going to cancel my cell phone and my internet. Those are probably the last two things that you'd ever cancel, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Cell phone and internet. Mm-hmm. We live and die by that. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's your photo album. It's your GPS.
It's your job pretty much these days.
It's your job, your email access, your way to communicate, text message. It's your link to social media, which people are glued to.
Mm-hmm. That's how people communicate now.
Yeah.
It's no more face-to-face.
When we were interviewing for interns and different positions, even operations managers over the last 7 years, I could tell you we had some really, really bad interviews where people would come in and look at their cell phone or look down, not look at you, not smile, no emotion. When we asked questions, thought to be kind of engaging, it was a very basic answer, as if they were being interrogated by the police.
Yeah.
So it's just like kind of confusing. Like what is actually going on? But anyway, going back to technology, I think that earnings have been great. If you've seen some of the reports,
they're all great.
Fantastic.
I don't think
up 20%, beats 30%.
Well, that's another thing. Ford just
yes,
yes, they're down 7% today. They beat revenue, they beat everything.
What I've noticed too is you get some emotional trading, like if it's not part of the pre-open trade, which is expected to boom, and we've seen that sector go up. The travel and tourism, the leisure spending, and some of the retailers have even come up quite a bit too.
Mm-hmm. Well, GM, it was funny because I just saw a commercial last night on TV. I was watching TV. Brand new commercial, never seen it before. GM, 15 new EV vehicles coming out like next
15?
year. 15? Yeah. Like they're going.
They got an EV truck too?
Big time into EV. Like this commercial was all about EV, only EV, So I see that more and more now, With Ford, I just saw a commercial, the new EV Mustang,
EV Mustang.
Yeah, the Mach 1, I think it's called or something. 300 miles, you can drive it for 300 miles. On one charge.
And then you got to stop and read a newspaper for 3 hours for the car charges. Yeah.
Exactly.
Let's do some short drag racing. We don't want to do anything too long because I might have to stop.
Yeah.
I really don't know. I've never owned an electric vehicle or a hybrid, and I don't know anybody that actually has one.
Neither.
Do they just plug into a regular outlet at home? I have no idea.
I don't know. I know they have these Tesla charging stations.
I've seen them. They have them at Eastview Mall. I've seen them at malls, parking garages.
Yeah, and I don't know if they have a separate plug or anything. I don't own a Tesla, so I couldn't tell you.
Well, they're different vehicles.
Yeah.
I mean, I've sat in one at the showroom down in Tampa maybe a couple years ago.
Yeah, and they're all space age inside. One huge computer screen, I heard.
Yes.
Inside, so I don't know.
And then they had... Do you ever see their SUV?
Need, though?
Do you ever see their SUV kind of looking vehicle?
I've seen it on the road, yeah.
It's not very big. It's small. It looks kind of like an overgrown car, I guess, an overweight car.
Well, I think the car designs are changing too for Tesla. They were very, very like space agey.
Yes.
And now they're looking more like a conventional SUV they're coming out with. You know what I mean?
Did you see their Cybertruck?
No.
Oh, it's horrible.
Ugly or?
It just looked like something that maybe belongs on Mars.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just too much.
Yeah, I don't know that it would be appealing to... And why do the vehicles have to be designed to look so different than a normal car? Couldn't it look like a normal, trendy-looking car with nice, clean lines?
That's
and
what
just
I would
have an
think.
electric engine
Yeah.
or not? I don't know.
That's what I would think. I mean, the only other thing I could think of is like aerodynamics if you're driving for gas mileage, but you're
Maybe it's
not
more
using
important.
gas anymore.
Right.
So I don't think because they were saying like the vehicles of the future are going to be more boxy because you're not looking at aerodynamics anymore for fuel,
Well,
mileage.
maybe you are though, because they want to get as many miles out of that charge because you're going to be pulled over reading that paper, like we said, for hours waiting for that thing to charge.
But I think
right?
honestly, like what you said, having the charging while you're driving, that's going to be the way it's going to go.
If they could somehow build it, manufacture it, engineer it into the car, like an alternator, like you said, that pushes out more than it's consuming, that would be ideal because you wouldn't have to do anything to the roads.
Yeah. It doesn't even, I don't think it has to push out more than it's consuming. I think you have to get to a certain mile distance where you can drive your vehicle because no matter what, after driving 1,000 miles,
Yes.
you're going to stop somewhere.
Yes.
That's a 10-hour drive. You know what I mean? So you're stopping for 2 hours. You're going to have to charge your vehicle anyway, at least, or to sleep.
I mean, if they could get a car that could run on, I don't know, maybe close to 500 miles per charge, and then maybe a backup battery or supplement of something, gas, whatever it might be for a smaller portion, maybe another 100 miles, that could be pretty big.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you're going to have to stop eventually. And we did the drive down to Florida a couple times. And it's always been bad. Because we usually try to make it as quickly as we can, meaning drive straight through. Not stop.
That's a long drive.
It's a bear.
That's a long drive.
I hate it.
But see, we're thinking on the aspect of long-term driving. How often do you actually take a 1,000-mile drive?
I don't. I mean, my commute, especially since the pandemic, my daily commute is about maybe 10 miles round trip.
Okay. So you come to work, right? You drive to work. You're at work. So if you could charge your car at work, you're good. And then you go home. What do? You plug your car in, you charge it at home.
Right. For the basic day-to-day.
So even if your car can get 300 miles and you're just using it basically to commute to work, home, go out for dinner, go shopping, you're good, right?
Yeah. I wonder if that's who it's
geared towards.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about people that are maybe wholesalers that drive, a massive amount of mileage every day.
Yeah.
They're driving 120 miles. Say they're going from Syracuse to, I don't know, Buffalo, and then they're making their day trips.
See, that's the thing. That's the only problem is the long distance driving.
But are those the people that would be more geared or more influenced by this? Like, geez, I spent a lot of money on gas. I'm putting a lot of emissions out there.
Yeah.
I would be a good person to save on both those things if I had an EV car.
Yeah.
Where you and me, if I'm driving 10 miles or I'm working from home or wherever it might be remotely, if I had an EV car, how much gas am I really saving? How much emissions am I really helping with? Not much.
But if you multiply that by 200,000 people...
Now, I did hear this. So we talked about bigger things operating on electric, maybe even down the road construction vehicles, trucks,
Caterpillar,
Freightliners.
Fuel cell.
Here's one that scares the crap out of me. Airplanes. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know how that would work.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Does
It'd be very quiet, though.
Because I imagine it's got to have a lot of torque and power to lift that plane, right?
I think that's way down the road.
I do, too.
Yeah.
And how about ships?
Well, that's interesting.
Boats?
I've never thought about that. Boats I wouldn't be so hesitant on because you're on the water. You're not
You're
flying.
floating anyway, right?
Yeah, you're floating anyway.
But
if your engine cuts out, you're not going to,
I have seen they have, and some of these private investments, they have some of these electric boats or smaller boats for recreational use.
Yeah.
But what I'm talking about is cruise ships, large, Freightliners where they're transporting goods across the ocean. Can you imagine an EV Freightliner? I don't know. I don't know if they could ever get there.
I think they could. Utilize something like they have water turbines now that create energy from spinning the turbine. So if you can implement something like that on the boat to charge the battery while the boat's moving, you can.
You
do
sure
that.
you're not an engineer?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm just thinking on the basis of an alternator charging a engine, conventionally on a car, gas-powered car. Same concept. If you have something that can charge it while you're moving in motion, it can work, you know? That's the only other thing is with an airplane, you would have to somehow harness the wind power you're flying through.
Well, let's rein back in because I know the original reason we started talking about this is tech versus like NASDAQ, Dow, like the three main indices. And another reason why you might start to see the value type companies doing better is this new proposal on capital gains tax. I don't know if you heard about it, but basically doubling from, let's say, the 20% range now to 40%, which makes it more attractive if you have a stock that's has a dividend that pays a yield, right? So now a company that's paying, let's say, a 1% dividend, that 1% dividend might be worth, I don't know, maybe 1.3%. Just because of the tax savings. And you're going to have people start to really factor that into when they're selling or rebalancing or what they're buying, what they're owning, especially if they don't modify the dividend at capital gains and depending on what stocks they're utilizing, but the tax on dividends, right? So, and from that perspective, the value type stocks tend to be more stable, you know, and they've been behind for quite some time.
Yeah.
So I think you might see a rally there, and that rally might continue. The industrials, agriculture, financials haven't really been the best performing asset classes to own.
What about infrastructure, like stuff like that?
I loved infrastructure 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I did. And some of the sectors that we looked at, they just have not panned out. Great ideas. Like, again, does the market react rationally?
Yeah.
You think of steel and concrete and roads and repairs and expansion. And if this clean new deal, whatever that transforms or modifies into becoming, we're talking about ripping down large buildings and rebuilding them to be more green and eco-friendly. That's going to create some jobs, right?
Yeah.
And what about the materials?
Well, they were talking about the tech aspect too, the like broadband internet service. They were talking about updating that as far as included in the infrastructure plan. That was one of the biggest boosts in the infrastructure plan was the internet services and stuff like that to make it better.
Do you have a 5G phone?
No, I don't think so.
I have a 5G phone,
Yeah.
and I was all excited about it, right? I don't really notice a difference.
Really?
And I think once you get used to it, you don't really think about it anymore. I remember so when we were in college, so we're going back like 20 years ago, yeah. I remember it taking to download even like music, a song. It might take you like 45 minutes, and the song was downloaded. You were excited. Now I think you can do that in maybe like 10 seconds, 20 seconds.
But the files have gotten a lot bigger too.
They have, the quality's gone up.
You were talking about 1 megabyte before, right? And now it's like, 3 gigs. Well, okay. I mean, that's a big difference, so, but I could see what you're saying. Like,
I'm on board with faster speed internet.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
As long as you can get, a company like Spectrum to actually make sure you have those speeds.
Good luck. And for me, it's not even about the speed necessarily.
Yeah.
The consistency. Because I can't tell you how many times my internet goes down, whether it be at home.
And that's why I brought it up, because I knew you were having problems.
I hate it. It drives me mad.
Here we're not so bad. We've had
the
pretty
office
consistent.
Is great.
Yeah, we've been pretty consistent. But I remember you telling me about the service, and my daughter was just telling me out where she lives out in the country a little bit more, and she said her service stinks.
It's terrible. Yeah.
She can't, they can only have one person on the internet at one time, and they've tried, calling the cable company to come out, and they say, we can't do anything. It's just bad out here. Okay, well,
you know what that comes down to is money.
Yeah,
because
that's why they're improving our infrastructure for the internet.
It probably costs too much for them to run, faster speeds to an area where there's less households.
Yeah,
they're looking at the bottom line, and I get it.
But eventually, it has to go out there.
Or maybe, hey, if I have to pay a little extra because it's less profitable, maybe you increase the bill. Anyway, we're getting off on a side tangent. I think that's all the time we have today. Thank you for listening. Constantine here signing off. Pennywise Financial Podcast. Thanks again, Jay.
Thank you. See you next time.
You've been listening to Pennywise Financial, brought to you by Monarch Wealth Management. Constantine and David really care about their clients. They want to make sure you're happy, so you'll continue to hire them. There's no commitments, and clients are free to leave whenever they want. Think about being able to pick up the phone and call someone for guidance and advice on almost anything, from buying a car, selling a home, buying vacation properties, or even selling a business. Reach out on the website at monarchwealthmanagement.com. There are 2 offices in Rochester and 2 offices in Buffalo. Reach out to us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube, or call us toll-free at 800-480-1580. That's 800-480-1580. Until next time, this is Pennywise Financial, signing off.
The opinions voiced in this program are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities are offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, and SIPC.